Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Watch. We are tracking some snow for later on this afternoon, and specifically, I think here in the Denver area, we could end up with about 3-4 inches of snow from this storm system. So let's start things out by taking a look at the kind of main impacts, that main overview about what you can expect as we head later on through the day. So it's, of course, about 11 a.m. here in Denver, and that means we've got about another hour or two until that snow starts to develop. We will see some of those impacts, especially to the evening commute, especially on the west side of town. So ski traffic, you're heading on up to the mountains tonight. Keep in mind that we will be looking at some of that snowfall impacting the west side of the metro area, probably starting around 2-3 o'clock with some of those impacts. Meantime, here in Denver, probably about 2 to 4 inches worth of snowfall, but I think on the west side of town, some spots could end up with 6-7 inches before all is said and done. So today, we'll top out in the 30s. We're already right around our forecast high for today. Winds still a little bit gusty out there, 10 to 20 miles an hour. It will be blustery at times here in Denver for your day today. Current temperatures, again, 35 for us here in Denver. I think that is going to be, and I'll get into more details on this here in just a second, I think that means that we will be looking at some of that snow not sticking as it first falls here in the immediate Denver area. So those impacts, I think in town, we're talking right around the I-25 corridor, probably don't really ramp on up until probably closer to around that 5-6 o'clock window. Once that sun starts to go down is when those impacts will probably start to go up for us here in town. Again, foothills, a bit of a different story, and we'll get into more detail on that here in just a second. So that temperature forecast, watch here as we kind of move ahead. Those temperatures fairly borderline, so we're talking about 32, 31, 33, right around freezing through the beginning part of this snow event. And again, to me, that's a big part of this, is that yes, it'll be snowing come 1, 2, 3 o'clock, but those roads will remain mainly wet. Initially, again, we'll have those temperatures in the low 30s, so right around freezing. Couple that with it falling during the daytime hours. We're getting some of that sun that will melt some of that snow on impact as well. So again, a couple things at play. I think it's going to take a little while for that snow to stick, but once that sun goes down, those temperatures will really plummet on down to the mid to upper 20s. So come 5:30, 6 o'clock, that snow will start to stick pretty quickly here in the Denver area. So again, 30s for us here in Denver for your day today. Temperatures, not so much the story aside from the impacts on the snow. What will be the story, of course, is that snow, which, again, gets going here, I think in Denver around 12:03. That snow spreads south as we get through the day, and really along basically all of I-25. It'll be snowing by sundown tonight. Around 5:30 is when our sunset is this evening, and with that, we'll have some of that snow for us here in Denver. I'll get more detail on Denver in just a second, but this clears out by tomorrow morning across the state after a couple of inches of snow. And again, going back here to this graphic, we will get some snow into the mountains, so the mountains don't get entirely left out from this, but it does look like the heaviest of the snow will be impacting I-25 on east. So let's take a closer look in here at the Denver area, where we will be looking at that snow starting to develop here in the next hour or two. That snow will spread, it'll start up in the foothills first, and then by about 7:30 tonight, it's snowing basically everywhere, but notice around 3:30, again, it's going to be snowing in Denver, but I think those higher impacts will be in the foothills where it's just a tad colder, and I think that snow will start to stick a bit earlier in places like Evergreen, like Morrison, like western Jefferson County, western Boulder County. Boulder, Arvada, Denver, I think we'll start to see that snow starting to stick around 4, 5, 6 o'clock, somewhere in that time window. So by the way, you have the official all clear from the weatherman to get out of work a little bit on the early side this afternoon and this evening, because that snow will start to impact that evening commute. We will see some pretty big impacts to it, and then that snow does come to a close by about 10 or 11 o'clock tonight, maybe a leftover flurry or two by then. So how much are we expecting here? Statewide, Winter Park, 2-3 inches. Denver, about 2.5 inches, 3 inches. I would lean a little bit higher than that here in Denver. In fact, Let's take a closer look in here at the Denver metro area specifically and what we can expect here. I do think we're looking at probably closer to about 3-4 inches in Denver. Out by the airport, a little bit less. I would say a general range of about 2 to 4 inches in Denver. Lower as you get out by the airport and east of I-25. Closer to about 4 or 5 inches as you get west of I-25. And then into the foothills, probably about 6-7 inches will be what we end up with in that area. And we will be adding to this season-date snowfall total here in Denver. We're at about 22 inches so far this season. We're normally around 29 inches. We should chip into that a little bit as we get later on through today. By the way, more snow potentially on tap as we get into the middle of next week with what could be a hefty little storm for us Wednesday and Thursday. We're keeping an eye on it, but for now, we'll just mention the fact that it does look like we're not done with the snow for the middle of next week, but I would say in terms of possible snow impacts, we could be talking about the need for some snow shovels, maybe somewhere around 6 inches could be in store for us by the middle of next week. That's the way it looks right now. Still some days, some time to kind of hammer out that forecast, but in the meantime, don't want to lose sight of the fact that we are going to be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of probably about 2 to 4, 3 to 5 inches worth of snowfall later on this afternoon and this evening here in Denver. So stay safe out there, and if you have to travel today, again, ski traffic, getting out of work a little bit early today, make sure you're getting out a little bit early. You have the weatherman's A-OK to do that. Stay safe out there this afternoon. We'll have more updates here on 9 News Watch as we head through the remainder of your day, and also Chief Meteorologist Kathy Sabin will be in for the 3, 4, 5, and as well as the 9 and 10 weather forecast later on this evening. In the meantime, thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Watch. I'm Meteorologist Chris Bianchi.